Hi everyone, it's Plastic EP here from Melbourne, Australia, and I've got a very special guest here, Peter Asher, singer, songwriter, and producer. How are you today, Peter?
I'm excellent, thank you. I'm here in Malibu, California, and it's a beautiful sunny day, and all is well.
Now, I want to ask you some really great questions.
All
Being
right.
there in the eye of the hurricane, I'm saying with the Beatles when they took off, how fantastic was that?
It was exciting, of course. I mean, at the time, you don't know that it's going to be that important, that it's going to last, for 50 years, and now we know it's going to last for hundreds of years. But no, it was an exciting time. It was, of course, it was a great time in London, great time musically, and a great time to be there.
I also got to say, your fantastic book, The Beatles A to Z, is out here in Australia. I've seen it, and I highly recommend everyone to go out there and get that fabulous new book. It's everywhere. Aren't you proud of that? How long did it take to write that one, Peter?
Well, it's an interesting thing because, it came out of a radio show that I do here in America for Sirius XM radio on the Beatles channel. And I do a show every week. And I decided to do a series of shows using the alphabet as an inspiration. Not so much just for song titles, but in the same way that Sesame Street does, just like you take a letter and you follow it wherever it goes. And it was that inspired a publishing company to come to me and go, we think that should be a book. And I said, oh, well, that sounds interesting. It sounds easy because I thought I could just transcribe the radio show and there would be a book. Turned out to be not that simple, of course. You have to rewrite everything. And of course, on a radio show, you can talk about a song and then play it. On in a book, you talk about it and then talk about it some more. So it's a bit harder. But that's where it all came from. And yeah, the book's done well here in America, and I'm glad it's there in Australia, and I hope people enjoy it. It's just me, talking about the Beatles' music in general and music in even more, overall sense, using the alphabet as a basic guide.
I also got to say, World Without Love was the number one hit here in Australia. And I've
Yes.
got to say, I'm a first generation fan, so I saw it and I can remember myself singing it when it first came out. And wow,
Mm.
what a song that was, Peter, honestly. And the film clips
Yes.
now on YouTube in high definition of you singing it with Gordon are just unbelievable.
Yeah, it was. We were very lucky. I mean, we got a record deal quite separately from that, and got signed by EMI Records. And at that point, when we were looking for songs, it so happened that I was living with Paul McCartney at the time in our family home in London, and I'd heard this unfinished song, and asked him if we could have it, and he said yes. So I owe him a big debt of gratitude for that.
That's fantastic. And also, I must say, how does it feel that your home was the birthplace to the song Yesterday? You've got to tell me that story. Like,
Well, I wasn't there the morning after that birth. I wish I had been, but my mum was, obviously, and she would, be making Paul his cup of tea in the morning or whatever, and and yes, he woke up with that song fully formed, fully born in his head that morning. I didn't witness that occasion myself, but he was convinced that he hadn't written it, that it was a song he'd remembered from somewhere. But in fact, um, after asking my mother and various other people whether they knew what it was, it gradually dawned on Paul that he'd invented it. And then he wrote the lyrics as well.
did I want to hold your hand start from there as well?
Yes. Oh, there's a lot of songs that started in that house. I Want to Hold Your Hand was a particular experience because, when Paul moved in with us and he lived in our family home for about 2 years, my mom had explained to him that there was a piano in the basement in this music room that he was welcome to use when he wanted to play piano. And there was an occasion when John Lennon came over and they were downstairs together in that little music room for a couple of hours and came out, and Paul called up the stairs to me in my bedroom on the top floor and asked if I would wanted to come down and hear the song they had just finished. So I came down to this music room, which just consisted of a tiny sofa, two-person sofa, a little upright piano, and a music stand. That was it. And I sat on the sofa, and the two of them sat side by side at the piano and played "I Want to Hold Your Hand" for the very first time to anybody anywhere. And I thought it was pretty good.
I mean, how big is that? Because I got to say, I love that song, and that's
Oh,
the
it's
one that
great
broke
song.
them in America. Come on, Peter, that's
Yes.
like, that's like a world class event. You may not have known it at the time, but look,
No, I didn't. And that's why I underplay it. But of course, I recognized I was incredibly fortunate to be there on that particular occasion. But yes, you never know when history is being made until afterwards.
could I say, at home there with Paul at that time, did you sit around sometimes with guitars, both of you, and just jam and play together? Did he like doing
Tragically,
that?
not really. I mean, not that I can really remember. He was a better guitar player than me anyway, but um, no, I don't think so much. I wish, but somebody goes, "Why didn't you guys join in the writing of War Without Love?" I'm going, "If only, you know, I should have been that clever to co-write." No, Paul, I'll write the bridge, so don't worry. No, I didn't. But
Also, I got to ask you, with the second song, "Woman," he used
yes,
the alias of Bernard Webb because he
yeah.
wanted to make
That,
sure
that
they were
wasn't
buying
that, that
the.
wasn't the second song. That will I guess Nobody I Know is the second,
Yeah.
and so on. Then there was I Go to Pieces that Del Shannon wrote. But yes, he wrote that song "Woman," and the pseudonym was Bernard Webb in England, which of course became Bernard Webb in America. As you know, they mispronounced Bernard in an odd way. But uh, everyone was suggesting at the time that anything with their name on it or Paul's name on it would automatically be a hit. So he thought it'd be interesting to try to write the song under a pseudonym, and that's what he did. And even though the pretense collapsed after about 3 weeks, that was enough time to prove that the record was a hit, regardless of the official name of the writer. So Paul made his point, and "Woman" was a hit record with or without his name on it.
But I mean, to have a Lennon McCartney song is unbelievable. Think of all
Yeah.
the people you must have met now through the Beatles. I'm just saying, who's some of the fantastic artists that you met?
Well, gosh, that's a tough question. I mean, I've met a lot of amazing artists over time, some through the Beatles, some myself, and so on. And obviously, I ended up managing, James Taylor and Linda Ronstadt, Joni Mitchell, Carole King, Randy Newman. So there's all kinds of extraordinary artists I've been lucky enough to work with, or as a producer, I produced Cher and Diana Ross and 10,000 Maniacs and Neil Diamond and I've been incredibly lucky. I've met and worked with tons of extremely legendary and talented artists.
Now, that's, as I said, in a nutshell, coming from the UK and going to the US and now living there. I mean, what a lifestyle you got. I mean, I'm down here in Australia, far away, caught up in the pandemic, and we're actually in curfew. But look, to be able to talk to you now in Malibu, I mean, how fantastic is this?
Well, I love Australia. I mean, I've been there many, many times. I have many friends in Australia. Some of you may know, Dennis Handlin, Michael Chugg, Michael Gudinski. People you certainly would know who they are. And I love Australia very much. I go back there every chance I get. In fact, I played there a couple of years ago. I was doing some shows with Albert Lee, and we did a little tour of Australia that was wonderful. So
That's
yeah, I look forward to coming back there as soon as we're off probation, as soon as we're allowed out of prison can go there.
now. Just got to ask you one more question about your home there in the UK when you was living
Yep.
there in London.
Mm.
Did you have a lot of problem with fans coming to the door?
But it was a bit weird, yes, because my father was a doctor in London. We were in the Harley Street, Wimpole Street area of London, which is all doctors, and it was sort of odd because that was at a point there was a crossover point where patients were still coming to see my father at that address, and there would be Beatle fans hanging around the door. And of course, the patients visiting had no idea why, so it was confusing. Yeah, there was a bit of a muddle there.
Now we'll move a bit forward. I got to tell you, I love Linda Ronstadt, one of the
Yes,
greatest singers. I got to
yes,
say, and she did that different drum by Mike Nesmith because I'm a big Monkeys fan. That's
yeah,
my generation. I was 8 years old and they hit at 1967, so you can
yeah.
appreciate in '64. I was a bit too young for the Beatles, didn't know what was going on. But 67, when the Beatles started going towards Sergeant Pepper, I was a Monkees fan. So for me, Linda Ronstadt, even now with her songs, whatever she's released, I'm just saying, she's got one of the most beautiful voices you could ever hear. And to produce her, tell me some stories if you can.
Well, no particular stories, but just yes, Linda. I get asked a lot about all the different great singers I've worked with, some of whom I mentioned, and there's no question. I make no bones about it that Linda was the greatest, just as a singer. She could just nail it. She was a pleasure to work with, and she also had a great song choice. She knew exactly what songs would be right for her and what ones wouldn't, and so on. So. No, specific stories, not so much. Overall admiration and conviction that Linda was, one of the best singers in the world, it remains intact.
Let's move to Neil Diamond now, who wrote I'm a Believer. I mean, how talented can you be as a songwriter, honestly?
Well, I think Neil still gets underestimated, to be honest. I mean, because of the whole Neil Diamond thing, the gold chains and the thing and all that, people don't take him that seriously. And he's one of the most important singer-songwriters in the history of American music. He's wonderful and also a really nice guy, but that's neither here nor there. But working with Neil was a privilege and a pleasure. And, people think of him more in a pop idiom, but if you look at Solitary Man or something in the singer-songwriter idiom alongside James Taylor or Bob Dylan or Ed Sheeran, or he's right in there with that group of the finest singer-songwriters in American music history.
That song, Crunchy Granola Sweet, that's a fantastic song.
True enough. Yes, absolutely.
What's your favorite Neil Diamond song? I got to say I'm a Believer because I can't help it. As I said, I'm a Monkees fan. But what would be your...
I'd go Cherry Cherry, I think.
See, that's what he did on the tail of the Monkees, you see. That's what made him then go towards being an artist. So that's fantastic for him back then. What about Cher, working with Cher? Can you tell me something about Cher?
She's amazing because she's a great singer. I love singers who, in a few notes, you know who they are. If there's anything that Linda Ronstadt, Diana Ross, and Cher have in common, it's the fact that they only have to sing like 3 notes, and you go, I know who that is. I'm always nervous when somebody says to me, "Oh, I can sing anything. I can do any style," because the singers I love do themselves. They know who they are, and Cher's amazing, and she always had so much other stuff going on. I remember we did that record of It's in His Kiss for the Mermaids film. That was, I think it was a big hit in Australia. It was #1 in the UK. I think it was hit in Australia, and that record. She was in the studio working with me. She'd go out, take a break. She'd be in the lounge. There'd be the guy that designing the perfume bottle, the guy approving the trailer for Mermaids, the guy, it's like she had so much stuff going on. She's an amazing woman doing a million things at once. But she also would have really done her homework. She'd come in, sing a few great takes of It's in His Kiss, with a beautiful Cher. Does he love me? All that great, intense Cher vocal. And I love Cher. I'm a friend and a fan.
Pete, I got to say, your sound, I'm just saying, that UK British sound that you had with all those hits, right? You play them, and they're like, how can I describe it? Like so elegant and so perfect songs. Really, all your hits.
Thank you. See, we were trying to be the Everly Brothers. We tried to be the Everly Brothers. We failed, but we came up with an English alternative.
Yeah, but you got your own sound, which makes the difference because I want to listen to the Everly Brothers. I'll listen to the Everly Brothers. But when I listen to Peter and Gordon, I'm listening to Peter and Gordon. And it's that unique sound of you guys. And as I said to you, these clips now, when you look back at your past in those early years, it's actually unbelievable. And let me say, your red hair back then just shines now. I mean, it's just like You actually capture the moment. And even if no one knew you, this younger generation, they go, wow, look at these two guys and the way they sing and the songs they sing and the way they know their craft. That's what comes a lot across when I see it now, even though I'm familiar with the songs. But you guys now, it's like 2020. Go and see it on YouTube and you go, especially high definition, and you go, wow, look at Peter, look at his hair. Like, you know, that's a standout for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And I mean that in the nicest way.
No,
You guys look like $1 million British artists. That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, now I'm a $1 million old man. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, look, when you look back on your career, just Peter and Gordon,
Yeah.
what can you tell me that no one knows about Peter and Gordon? Can you tell all these viewers a couple of stories from those days, either touring or, you know, practicing or fan things that happened to you as Peter and Gordon? Tell me some stories that no one knows.
Well, gosh, that's a hard one. I mean, the fan thing was weird then. You know, there was this obsessive, you know, screaming, idolization, fainting, all this crazy stuff that was happening. And it's almost as if all the rest of us who were part of the British invasion got caught up in it. So they'd seen the Beatles movie and they knew what they were supposed to do. It's like all this screaming and running. The weirdest thing I ever saw was Gordon and I did a gig. I forget where it was now. And we were singing on the back of a flatbed truck, which was the stage. And the audience was going nuts. It was screaming and jumping and we were in an outside like baseball park or something on the back of a flatbed truck. And the police were becoming increasingly worried. Finally, the girls sort of broke through and were jumping into the field and running towards the stage. And the police made us leave. So we jumped off this back of this truck thing and ran towards the backstage. And as I ran, my glasses fell off. My old Buddy Holly black square glasses fell onto the ground. I picked them up, put them back on, and ran. And I looked back, and the girl who'd been in the lead chasing us had knelt down where my glasses had fallen onto the grass, was plucking the grass up and eating it. And I went, that is weird. That is seriously strange, but kind of exciting at the same time. I wasn't against it, but it was odd. And I look back there, she's munching on this grass because my glasses had fallen on that very spot. So it was a little bit freaky. It was odd. That's about the oddest untold story I can think of.
That's it. If that's an untold story, that's what I want. But what I'm trying to say is, were you guys good friends with Herman's Hermits?
We met them. I mean, I see more of Peter Noone now than I did then. We're friends, certainly. But back then, no, we weren't good friends. There were a lot of bands that you'd see on TV shows when you'd all be on together, you know, and we all knew each other. But no, we weren't like best buds or anything, no.
What about Chad and Jeremy? I'm just saying these names because I want to see.
We didn't know each other then. We do now, but we didn't.
Okay, but isn't it amazing that they were doing their thing, you're doing your thing? But I'll tell you, World Without Love, that was like, poof, took over the Beatles.
Yes.
I reckon they'd ask themselves, I reckon John would have turned around and Paul and said, why do we give that away?
No, far from it. No, yeah, here's an interesting thing. The Beatles took the role of songwriters very seriously. So their heroes were not only Elvis and Eddie Cochran and the performers, their heroes were Goffin and King, Lieber and Stoller, the songwriters. They wanted to do that too. So when they had a hit that they didn't have to sing, they didn't have to promote, they just wrote, they were thrilled.
Now, I've got to ask you about Jerry and the Pacemakers. You came across him a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I knew Jerry a bit, but not that well, to be honest, no.
Okay, well, how is it when they do How Do You Do It in EMI and they say, we don't want to go to Liverpool with this song? So Jerry ends up getting the demo and Jerry has the #1 hit.
Yeah, no, I think George Martin considered that for a Beatles record at one point, as I understand it. But Jerry did it, and it worked out best for everybody.
But now, looking back, where you are now, 2020, I'm just saying, these are priceless memories and the life that you lived and the people that you produced. I mean, how wonderful is your life? You wake up every day and you've produced all these fantastic artists, and you ask yourself, gee, you know, I started off as a performer. Look where I've ended up. Look where I am now in 2020. Look at my musical legacy, whether that be you performing, you singing, you recording, or you recording other artists. I mean, how great is that you went from that and became a producer? That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, my general feeling on all of that is so far so good. I'm not done yet.
Now, what about with Apple? Did you work at Apple, Peter?
Yeah, I was head of A&R for Apple Records.
Well, can
That's
you
when
tell me?
I signed James Taylor to Apple Records.
I know that's huge. Can you tell me some other stories being A&R at Apple? Like, can you remember going out to lunch with certain people or something happened? Can you tell me a few Apple?
Well, we used to have A&R meetings every week with as many Beatles as would attend, and occasionally there'd be arguments, but mostly they were very receptive to each other's ideas. So if Paul wanted to produce Mary Hopkin, or George wanted to produce Jackie Lomax, or John wanted to make him some wacky record with his wife and be naked on the cover, everyone would kind of go, okay, fine, you know. But there was a collaboration by tolerance. And that's, you know, but it was, you know, everybody believed in Apple and believed in its mission. And it was an exciting time. It was certainly a great time to be there in that office during those days.
It was before its time. Can I ask you now about Badfinger? Whatever you can tell me about Badfinger,
Well,
please.
Mal Evans signed the Ivies. That was the band at the time he found them. And he came in and played us a tape of the Ivies. We loved it. We signed them. We made one album that did okay with that one hit. Oh God, what's it called?
Day after day.
No, it was an Ivies hit before they became Badfinger.
No matter what.
No, sorry, I forgot the name.
Okay.
Those are all Badfinger records.
Right. Okay.
Anyway, and then after that album, we changed the name of the band to Badfinger and made the next album, and then everything took off. And Badfinger, of course, had a tragic history.
Yeah.
You know, they had personal and musical disasters, and it all went wrong. But they also wrote some of the greatest songs ever. You know, songs that eventually became huge hits for other people,
That's true.
and Harry Nilsson and so on. And so, no, I mean, they were remarkable musicians, and it was just a sad story from sociologically in terms of family, but an amazing story in terms of the music business.
I also got to ask you, Leslie Cavendish, he's our friend. Did he ever cut your hair?
No, not that I can remember, and maybe, but I don't think so. No.
Fantastic. Now, any other Apple stories? Like, did you end up, like, they said a lot of stuff, like with Apple, there was some weird stuff going on as well. I don't know, bikies staying there and all these other stories at the time. What's
Well, yeah, I mean, people had arrived, like the Hells Angels all arrived, and nobody knew what to do with them. They would all get sent to Derek Taylor's office. He was officially the press guy, but he also was the guy that, you know, when reception would go, well, I don't know what to do with these people. George or whoever would say, send him to Derek's office. He'll figure it out. Because Derek was very sociable and very clever and very articulate, and would find a way to incorporate all these people into the craziness of his office. So at the end of a day's work, you know, my office was on the top floor at Apple. I'd come down to Derek's office where you'd have a couple of drinks and whatever else he had in his drawer at the time, and meet whatever weird people had shown up at Apple, whether they were Hare Krishnas or Hells Angels, and it was a little chaotic, yes.
Peter, what was it like being there in Swing in London, in Carnaby Street, and all those things happening like these Austin Power movies?
It was good. I mean, it was like Austin Powers, yeah. Eventually,
And what about yourself? Did you you didn't go to India with them, did you, Peter?
no, I did not.
Okay, what about the Rooftop? Were you there at the Rooftop concert?
No, I was not. No, I was in LA at the time. I was working out of Capitol Records in LA. Though a lot of people think I was at the Rooftop concert because there's a guy called Kevin something who has red hair who was there, but it's not me.
can I ask you, with the progression of the Beatles, I'm just saying, like, for example, the Abbey Road album or the Rooftop concert, did you have knowledge of these things happening before they happened?
Yes.
Can you give me an insight into how these things happen? Like, for example, for Abbey Road, Paul just said one day, drew a sketch and said, I think we'll do this as a cover. Like, can you tell me some event that you knew?
No, I don't.
knowledge?
No, I don't know that. No, I can't really. No, I mean, I only I only talk about what I was actually there for. So, like the rooftop concert, I found out about it, of course, as it was happening, but I was in LA.
Okay.
But I don't know about it in advance.
So when you look back, Peter, on your fabulous career, what is it that you think you want to tell your fans, Peter and Gordon fans, especially now, when you look back at that period? How do you make a summation of that period in your life?
I don't think I do yet, because I don't think it's over yet. But I think we were all very lucky to be part of this British moment when British music entered a very bold and creative period based, of course, on a love for American music. You've got to remember, it was all based on America. We idolized America. We thought, everything about America. We all, Little Richard and, the Miracles and all the, and I was a big jazz fan. I was a folk fan with Woody Guthrie, Charlie Parker. The Beatles began as a tribute band to American music. They weren't doing their own songs, probably until they started writing songs, which it turned out they did rather well. They never sang a British song. It was all about America. So the whole thing was based on our adulation and admiration for American music, and I think it's important to remember that. The miracle of the British invasion was that we managed to, sell it all back to them. We sort of fixed it up, tweaked it a little, and polished it and sent it back, which is amazing. So I think I'm very grateful for all of that. And now, the creativity between Britain and America is totally equal. There's some amazingly great music coming out of England, amazingly great music coming out of America, and the musical future looks to me very bright.
Peter, I just want to thank you so much. I had such a fantastic time talking to you as a first generation fan. I mean, I'm going to go and play my Peter and Gordon records. Don't worry about that, because they're that great.
And you're in Melbourne right now?
Yeah, I'm in Melbourne, and
I love Melbourne. It's a great city. I have a lot of friends. I have more friends in Sydney, but I love both cities.
Well, I got to say, you got a new friend here in Melbourne. Anytime you come down, I'd love to take you to some of these great places here. There's a winery in the Yarra Valley. I don't know if you've been there, but it's just a fantastic place. 1 hour out of Melbourne.
There, but I've drunk the wine from there, but I haven't been there.
All right. Thanks again, Peter. And I'll just get you to hang on there for a minute. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you very much.